Welcome to the Neuro-Friendly Rising podcast with me, your host, Polly Pollock. I'm an ADHD-friendly sales and marketing mentor for coaches and heart-led business owners who want to take their business full-time and beyond with marketing and sales that doesn't make you want to put your head through a wall. Here we talk about strategy, inner work, confidence, conviction, and neuro-friendly structures that will allow you to grow your business, get seen by more clients, make more sales, and make consistent income. Let's dive in. Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Neuro-Friendly Rising. I apologize in advance. I'm really feeling quite rough today. Kind of hanging out my ass from a really busy weekend. Big energy hangover. It was such a good weekend, though. We went to Wales and we surfed. I literally surfed my ass off. It was so good. What else did we do? We went hiking, and then yesterday I went horse riding, and I'd never done Western riding before, and I thought I wanted to give it a try, and it's awesome. I really, really did enjoy it, but my ass is my nether regions, like the whole basically pelvis down is it's not okay. Put it that way. Anyway, just telling you about my nether regions. Yeah, it's different. It's different than English riding, but yeah, I'm just gonna have to harden myself up to it, I think. But yeah, so I'm super tired today, and I feel a little bit hay feverish. Oh, I missed out an integral part of my story yesterday, before my horse riding lesson. So just to give you all a bit of a kick before we dive into the episode, before my horse riding lesson, I basically am quite allergic to horses and hay and stuff like that, even though I worked on a farm when I was younger, and like I shouldn't be, but I am. So I thought, okay, I'm actually just I was a bit allergic last time, a couple of weeks ago when I went. I'm just gonna take a couple, or one hay fever tablet. Now they didn't have the ones that I normally had, so I took one of the 1-a-day ones. And I was like, oh, I already started sneezing, so I took one and it didn't touch the sides. And I was like, I'm gonna just take two. Like, I have a very high tolerance to things. Like, I will be fine. Took two, went to my horse riding lesson, came back. Oh my God, when I tell you, I don't know if it was like exhaustion from the trip mixed with that and then allergies from the horses. I was breaking out in hives as well. I think that was from the hay. And I slept for like 5 hours, and I kept waking up and I was like tripping out. And my fiance was just there like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, he was just like checking on me every like half an hour. And he was like, just sleep it off, honey. Just sleep it off. I was like, oh God. And I was meant to be helping him. Like, we were meant to be washing the car, and I just felt so bad because he'd driven all that way back from Wales. Oh, and I just like could not wake up. Anyway, so that was my really eventful weekend and my hay fever tablet fiasco. Just take one a day. Okay, if you're ever wondering, it says one a day for a reason. Okay, so now that we've gotten my antics out of the way, I'm really excited to dive into today's episode. After the episode, I want you to stick around because I'm going to be telling you a little bit about, at the end, about the updates with the Neuro-Friendly Sales Accelerator. We are still in early bird enrollment, so I'm really excited to tell you a bit about that. So today's episode, it's kind of a rough topic to talk about. Like, it's a tough thing to bring up with anyone, and I think it's such a common thing to bring up as well. And it's never the easiest thing to kind of have to sit down with like a client and sort of say, hey, I've noticed this in your content. Let's talk about it. Let's see if we can kind of find a way that we can reframe this. It's always a bit of an awkward thing. So what I'm going to be going into today is how we can essentially become a little bit too vulnerable with our audience online on social media, and how this can lead to not being seen as a trusted next step, which is, of course, massively important when it comes to getting clients and gaining people's trust at the end of the day, because that's what it's all about as a coach, as a practitioner, as a healer, as a therapist, whatever it is that you are. And how this can often put a real big spanner in the works. Oh my God, my words today. But a real big spanner in the works. A real big spanner in it's all that Western riding I was doing. A real big spanner in the works when it comes to, putting yourself out online, especially when there is a lot of advice that yes, like being authentic online is so important, but there's a difference between being authentic and being you and sharing your brand and sharing your personality and trauma dumping on our audience. So I'm going to be going into that a little bit more. So I want to just firstly start by saying that vulnerability is powerful. It's hugely powerful. But there is a cap that needs to be, and no one wants to admit this. I feel like no one actually wants um, to kind of admit anything that I'm going to be going through because we can get so butthurt about this shit. And I'll go into that a little bit more, but we see our businesses sometimes, especially when you're like in the spiritual and wellness industry, as such an extension of ourselves. And in a way, they are. And I know this because I started out in the spiritual industry. Um, but that's really dangerous for us. So when we kind of get feedback or lack of feedback, because everyone's sort of like, "Whoa, man, you overshared way too much, and now I don't feel like safe working with you," or we get a bunch of people saying, "Oh yeah, I love your content," but like basically, "Fuck no, I'd never work with you." It's silently saying that, or giving you the gist that it's like, "Yeah, I love your content, but like no thanks." It can be really hard to come to terms with. Oh, well, what do you mean? I can't share everything about my life and myself and how I'm feeling on my business page? Well, no. And you shouldn't, because really your business isn't. And I know that this is going to be like really a hard pill to swallow for a lot of you guys, but um, it's not about you. It's not a personal page. Like, you're a personal brand, yeah, but like when you are going to be, brain dumping every frustration or minor inconvenience you have in your day, that's not only going to be really shitty for you because you're going to get in a crappy headspace, but that just completely sets the tone in the wrong way for your business page. You know what I mean? It's what you have a journal for. If you want to, like, if you want to release some shit, do that. Um, so vulnerability is powerful, authenticity is powerful. Yes, it definitely, your people need to know that you're a human being. And by no means am I saying that you need to appear to be perfect or like nothing ever goes wrong because I've got sun that shines out of my ass. Like, no one buys into that shit. And believe you me, like, if you're if you watch any of my Instagram content, I'm very like um to the point, and like I'm not in any way, like, just go and look for yourself. I'm not in any way trying to be perfect or anything like that. And I'm vulnerable to an extent on my page. But yeah, that's not the place. And there is a fine line between being real and then emotionally oversharing in a way that feels unsafe for your audience, essentially. So this, and I think that this is especially important for neurodivergent business owners because we've spent our entire life masking, right? So when we get told to be authentic and unmask and all of that, and if you've done that, and let's say you did unmask or you have been unmasking and then you've noticed yourself doing this, maybe you haven't, like maybe you haven't noticed yourself oversharing, maybe you're literally not comfortable to do that at all. Whichever side you're kind of falling on, this episode is going to be really, really key for you to absorb anyway, so that doesn't kind of happen and you can find like a fine line. But the people who were told to unmask and like, just be authentic, just be you, and like express, like self-expression on social media, and like, putting every inch of your soul and your heart and your like body out. I don't mean like titties and stuff. I mean, like, I post a bikini pic here and there. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm all for free in the net, honey. No, I'm joking. I'm not. um, but what I'm talking about is like, putting every inch of like who you are on social media in the name of self-expression can often feel like that's the advice that's been given. So for us neurodivergent people who have been masking our entire life, and we go to that and now we're like, oh wait, but that's too much. So our brain doesn't know what's fucking coming or going. Like, whether you are ADHD, autistic, dyslexic, anything in between, like, we have all been masking our entire life. So, and we can't really tell deep down. I mean, we have the social kind of norms built into our heads as adults, and we've got an understanding of who we need to, how we need to be, as a human being. But it can be really hard to know, like, when has gone too far, if that makes sense. Like, okay, well, I'm unmasking, well, how far do I go? That's why ADHD is our prone to like oversharing and stuff. Like I am very much an oversharer. But we sometimes just can't figure out why. So it can be especially important for us neurospicy peeps to know our limits on that. So really what vulnerability is. So I'm going to talk about the difference between vulnerability and trauma dumping, essentially. So vulnerability is and should be on your page intentional sharing. And by the way, if you are going to have like, I know that people have been doing this for a couple of years, they'll be like vulnerable share, like like vulnerable share coming up, and then they'll like announce it. You don't have to do that. It's like, I really think the most potent times that you can share is when you can weave what you're trying to say into storytelling and give your audience a grounded, this is why I'm telling you this. I'm not just dumping information. This is, or sometimes, on a irregular basis, like you might do a life update. But you don't want to be doing vulnerable shares, life updates, intense things that show that you're going through constant emotional turmoil. Even if you are having a really tough period, maybe it's been like 2 months of hell in your life, there comes a point where like you need to get to grips with the fact that you are a professional running a business. You are a coach or a leader or a practitioner of some kind. You need to lead your people, and you need to sometimes deal with your own life stuff and deal with it well and take time and rest. And I'm saying, look after yourself as the priority. You come first, business comes second. But in the wake of that, you can't turn to your audience and your social media account and basically try and sort your life problems out there. Does that make sense? So, vulnerability at it's what it should be is, occasional intentional sharing from a grounded place with your audience's needs in mind, always relating it back to, why am I telling you this? You know what I mean? Whereas trauma dumping is kind of unfiltered, very unprocessed emotional offloading that often kind of lacks boundaries or context, or like, okay, why am I telling you this? So when you do feel yourself like wanting to or going to post something that's along the lines of vulnerability, just ask yourself, am I sharing this to serve? Like, is there a point to this, or do I feel like I just need to soothe myself in the moment? Because what I don't want anyone to get into the habit of is regulating or trying to soothe their emotional kind of things by relying on their social media audience. Like, you got to split it up. Your business is one arm, and then your life and you is another, and that's really how it should be on a healthy kind of boundary basis. I'm a huge, massive believer that you come first and your business comes second. That's it. I'm not saying you should always say, oh, I'm feeling a bit tired today, I'm going to cancel all my clients. No, fuck that. Like, I'm not in the business of encouraging people to, like, when they've stubbed their toe, I must go and rest now, and I must go and cancel all of my clients and fuck them, basically. Absolutely not. I'm in the business, though, of you being able to put yourself first when life does its natural shit fuckery that it seems to do a number on all of us from time to time. But I don't want anyone to get into the habit of trying to soothe themselves or regulate through relying on their audience. No, definitely not. So that's kind of my my basic way of defining the difference between actual vulnerability sharing with a point, and then just trauma dumping. So yeah, that's kind of and when we look at how this can repel your audience versus, oh, okay, so when you share vulnerably with a point, they're going to think, oh wow, that person is really she walks the walk, she walks the walk, she walks the talk. Can you wait, hang on, talk the fuck's sake, you know what I mean, walk the talk. Can you walk the talk? Is that right? Or is it walk the walk? Oh my God, man. Every podcast episode. Can you walk the walk? Yeah, fucking, you know what I mean. That you're not all bark and no bite. You're not all tree and no root. You're not all fart and no poo, basically, as I like to call it. So that's what vulnerable shares do. But when you trauma dump, it can repel your audience and it can feel unsafe or like they need to emotionally caretake you in some way. Like, I will never, ever make my clients feel like, and I've been in coaching containers when you are emotionally caretaking the coach. Like, so many times, fuck that. Like, and I get clients, my clients are the fucking sweetest people in the world, right? Like, I I've sometimes even done a vulnerable post, from time to time, and it will be, very guided and very, why am I sharing this with you? Well, because I want you to know this and this, and I'll get my clients message me, privately, like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, oh, thanks. I was sharing it as a little lesson, but that's very sweet. I'm wonderful. Thank you, though. I will never. I'm sure they would love to hear from me, but I will never respond to like a message like that saying, "Oh no, thank you for checking in. I'm doing awful." Like, no, like I'm doing dreadful. I just never want to make a client or audience member feel like they are on the receiving end of my emotions. Like, when I was moving into the van last year, I had loads of my clients, message me, and even in our time together, this was one thing that I was like super, I was finding was recurring, was, in our calls that, was their paid time that they had paid me for. They were like, so anyway, tell me about your van, your van transition. And I'd be like, I'll message you about that after. Let's not do that. And I don't want to eat into your time. But anyway, my point there was there are a lot of people who, do make their audience feel like, they have to caretake them, and it's just not professional. So anyway, my long story short, you don't want to feel, you don't want your clients or your audience members to feel like they don't have any trust in you, because that's what trauma dumping does. When there's like boundaryless sharing, basically, it does erode trust, and you eventually kind of become someone that they pity rather than someone who they trust to guide them, as their coach or service provider, because no one is going to pay someone that they are pitying or seeing as someone who's constantly going through shit. We're all constantly going through something. Like, we rarely get like, I've always got something going on, right? But like, not necessarily like bad. I mean, my perception of life is that, even when bad or stressful things happen, I'm just like, this is jokes. Like, I wonder what this is going to bring. Like, even if it's a stressful situation, I'm always like, this is hilarious, because I know that there's going to be a lesson or something out of it. So, I think that we're always going through things anyway. Like, I probably get like a 2-week gap of when I've got like nothing going on, and then I'm like, something's coming. Like, I just don't know what. But so, it's not that, it's not normal to have things going on. It's just that we need to be very, very cautious about the way we share it, how we share it, and who we share it with, and in what space. So yeah, essentially it creates mixed signals and almost creates like a brand identity of chaos and instability, which is not something that we want people to, like, that's not exactly the thing that we want to be like top of people's mind when your name comes up. And this isn't meant to like scare you or anything. This is literally just meant to give you an insight into how to create that boundary for yourself, so that you can share vulnerably when it's appropriate, and then, actually position yourself as an authority. Because, and when I say authority, I mean like a viable next step for your ideal client. And I also think, I just want to add in that there's actually a bit of an interesting point that I think links with this, that's just popped to mind, is that sometimes I think we can do this to self-sabotage. And throughout my career as a coach, like throughout the years, I used to be a spiritual coach. Now I'm a business coach. Now I'm a sales and marketing coach. I have actually noticed self-sabotaging patterns come up every up level I've had in business, whether that be financial or otherwise. When I became a published author, there was a lot of that going on. And it wasn't necessarily like breakdowns and like, oh my God, I can't do this and stuff. They were much more subtle and slimy. But sometimes I think we do this and we overshare, especially at the beginning, or we put ourselves out there as like, oh, I'm just anyone, I'm just like, I'm just here to share about me and just like hide in the shadows, but also just kind of like share all this stuff. Because actually, I think there's some subconscious shit that comes up around, well, if I do this, maybe no one will notice me. You know what I mean? Or if I do this, yeah, I don't want people to see me as like, I hear a lot of the time, like when we talk about leadership, I don't mean leader in like this, just the wanky, like annoying way of like, oh, you must lead your people and you must be like better than them and just shit all over everybody. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actual leadership where you forge your own path and you hold people in their growth and you get your hands dirty and you work with people. That's the type of leader I'm talking about. But I see this a lot in leadership overall is, if I do this, I won't have to lead. And I hear people say when I say the word leader, oh yeah, I'm not a leader. Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, I'm not a leader. No, definitely not. I'm just someone who likes to work with people and like sort of blend in. And it's like there is a real aversion to the thought and the feeling of leadership. And I think that honestly, this is potentially a subconscious pattern that comes up as well. So it'll be interesting. This is why shadow work is so important, because even in sales, marketing, business, social media, it's not ever black and white. There's always some fucking shadows there that need addressing. So that's what I'll say about that. And so, yeah, I just want to go into, again, why this might be common with neurodiverse folks. I know I've kind of covered it on the masking part. But on the emotional part as well, we kind of struggle with emotional dysregulation as standard. So when we post, sometimes and again, noticing your own patterns, it's so good to look at whether you are posting from a place of, oh my God, this has just happened and I need to share about it, or, oh, that happened yesterday or last week and I feel like I've processed it now and I want to share about the valuable parts of what I learned and what I can share with my audience. Because when you feel overwhelmed, posting can really feel like a good outlet. And again, like if you're ADHD, autistic, dyslexic, we struggle to process emotions. We struggle to regulate emotions. So whenever there's an outlet, and we all kind of have our vices as neurodivergent people and entrepreneurs, we'll use it. So looking at where is an appropriate outlet and where is an inappropriate outlet, and setting that boundary with yourself is so key. Many of us were not taught what was safe, boundaried self-expression, and this is something that we kind of have to learn, especially in business, and it's not easy. So just be kind to yourself if you are kind of noticing this pattern coming up. So, how to practice a healthy vulnerability in your brand? Let's kind of start here, because it's all well and good recognizing the stuff, but let's look at what you can kind of do to share vulnerably enough for your audience to see that as a positive and think, oh wow, she's really moved through, what makes her a good leader. She's moved through some stuff that she's actually helping people with. She's the person to help, and how we can kind of share that from essentially the scar, not the wound. That's a saying that I really like: sharing from the scar and not the wound. So wait until you've processed the experience and reflect on a takeaway from that. So if there's no takeaway, don't post it. Like, that is as simple as it is. And I know that there are nuances to this, like, oh, what if I want to share like a life update? Yes, 100%. But like sometimes, and again, just I don't share about every single thing in my life. Like last year, and I'm going to share this now because like purely for example. So last year, the end of last year was a really quite a hellish time. So we moved into the van, which was amazing. Then all in the space of like 3 months, my partner's auntie passed away, my grandma passed away, my auntie passed away, and then we had to rehome our cat. I didn't share any of that on social media. I did not share a single fucking thing, because in fact, I think in one post where I said that I was going to be like offline for a bit, I just said we've had some bad news in the family or something. But Jesus, the shit I was going through, and I was going through it. No one knew, because I'm like, well, that's my business. I'm not going to share everything. And I'm very open, and I share a lot about like my life, my personality, what I do, my day. I'm very active on my stories. But was I gonna sit there and start talking about my mental like well-being to my audience? Absolutely not. Um, so I, shared about the van. I shared about, and I'm not saying only share about the good bits. I'm just saying be boundaried with it. So yeah, like if reflecting on what's in it for your audience, and honestly, like, so that's an example. Me sharing about all of that stuff, like what none of that could have had a um sorry, hiccups, a takeaway for my audience. So I wasn't going to show it. Moving into the van and going through the trials and tribulations with that, that definitely had a reflection for my audience. So I decided to share it. So do you see what I'm kind of saying? And when you are going to do vulnerability shares, just use a clear frame. If you've had a rough week and you feel like there's some really good lessons to pull out of that, you can frame it as, here's what I learned from a tough week, instead of everything's a fucking mess and I'm literally sat here crying and spiraling and I just wanted to tell you guys because, like, fuck this, basically. like, so just position it and frame it in a way that allows your audience to feel safe. Because, and I know that this is like, I have had some people in the past, like some people get it and they're like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely makes sense. And then some people are like, but what if I want to share about how anxious I am? And what if I want to share about how rough I'm feeling? And what if I want my audience to know that I'm just having it like, and the bottom line is your business isn't about you. Like, I know that it really sounds quite harsh, but it's about the people who are going to work with you and put money in your pocket. Otherwise, there is no business. It's just a social media account. And if you want that, well, this ain't the fucking place. Why are you listening to the podcast? like, it's not how business works. And really, your clients and your audience should be front and center on the business side. And then if you want to go and share with someone, go and talk to your therapist because it's more healthy anyway. So go and talk to your therapist and go and, share, go and do some yoga, go and do a retreat, go and do a meditation session where you can all open up to each other and fucking share, talk to your partner, anything. I'm not saying keep it all in. I'm saying keep it all in on your socials. Like, that's it. Go and look after yourself. And this is kind of looping back to what I was saying in the beginning. Life first, you are important, business second. But knowing where those two things sit in your life and where to share. I hope that makes sense. So some just key things that I want to just loop back to. So when you are posting, just some questions to ask yourself to make sure you're not trauma dumping. So some questions around this to ask yourself if you're unsure is, are you posting mid-trigger or mid-emotional spiral? Are you expecting your audience to validate or soothe you? So are you posting something with, oh, I hope I get comments, even subconsciously, oh, I hope I get some comments just from people telling me it's all going to be okay, or, I'm not doing anything wrong. By the way, all of this stuff, like, if you don't know how to deal with it, is very normal. I'm not saying you're some freak that is like so wrong for thinking any of this. This is the hold that social media has over us. So I want you to know that I'm not, you're not alone if you are secretly thinking, oh shit, yeah, no, actually I do sometimes think that. When you are at that stage and you don't know, you haven't set those boundaries, this stuff is very normal to think and feel. So, third question, does this post serve your audience or does it just serve you? And would you feel comfortable if this post went, and I know that this is quite a big thing that I talk about anyway, but I'm not talking about virality in the sense of like you should hope that it goes viral, because I'm not saying that. But would you feel comfortable if that post went viral or was read by shit tons of your ideal clients? Or are you posting it just because, oh yeah, I probably don't have that many people right now that, will like care about my work or whatever. Like, I don't know what situation you're in, but that's a real thing that comes up for people as well. And what to do instead. So again, as I said, like, if you feel like you need an outlet, have a private container for that serves you and only you. So whether that is a coach or a therapist or your journal, something that you can actually have a outlet with rather than social media. And then, once you've processed things, you can then choose to share it publicly from a calm and sort of regulated and conscious place. And whether that is your biggest story or something that happened last week, I share. So a good highlight to go and look at on my Instagram is the My Story highlight. I go deep into my story. Like ridiculous, and that is not pretty. My story of how I got here and my teenhood and my fucking childhood is not a pretty place. And I go into that and I share and I'm an open book, but it's not in the sense of, you know, the uncomfortability with it. And again, so sharing from the scar and not the wound. I'm sharing my story for the purpose of telling you why I'm here and why I'm qualified to help, rather than, you know, sharing from the wound of I'm hurting. You know, I did the work in therapy, I did the years of healing, and I'm sharing it from the scar. And yeah, like if you're gonna be sharing anything, just making sure it serves a purpose. So those are kind of my final round off points, and just remembering that, you know, authority and being an authority or being a next step, or a safe next step in the eyes of your clients, does not mean that you have to be perfect, but it does need stability. You know, you can be honest and raw and human while still being, you know, trustworthy to your clients. So that's where I will round it off today. And if you have not jumped into recent podcast episodes or been on my Instagram, by the way, go and follow me on Instagram at Polly Pollock Official, if you haven't already. But if you haven't been following, you may not already know that the Neuro-Friendly Sales Accelerator is currently open for early enrollment. Woohoo! And I am fucking stoked. We already have 4 students inside, which is amazing. We only opened the doors to early enrollment about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. Oh my God, not even 2 weeks actually. Yeah, about a week and a half. And we already have 4 students officially signed up and enrolled. And then we've got a few more in the pipeline. So the Neuro-Friendly Sales Accelerator is my signature 3-month program for coaches, neurospicy, of course, coaches, practitioners, healers, therapists, who have been in business for a little bit. You know, you have been kind of maybe looping on your niche and trying to solidify something of some sort of consistency, and you're really just struggling to get that sustainable, consistent level of clients in. Any clients that you have had up to this point have maybe been like, you know, peaks and troughs. So you've had quite a few and then none, or you've just had a few trickling in, but nothing that would get you to the income that you really want to be at sustainably, you know, with a plan that you can say, oh, okay, I've done it now, and this is how it can become repeatable, and I can start getting repeatable, predictable revenue in. You might be feeling invisible online, like you're posting and you're trying to just, you know, follow all the advice of posting enough or what to post, and you just feel like nothing is landing. Maybe you struggle to explain what you do clearly. Maybe you are kind of just in this liminal space of mastering what you do and kind of just not knowing what you do at all. And by this point, you've probably absorbed every fucking free ebook or quiz or $9 resource that will tell you how to, or templates even under the sun, and nothing has actually moved the needle. You feel like you're absorbing information, and then when it comes to actually implementing things, you just draw a blank. So if this is hitting home and is actually speaking to you, then this is where things get to change. So it's good news. So what we'll be doing together in the accelerator is there is 8 core modules that you'll be working through in the curriculum. Amongst that, so that's the learning portion where you'll get video trainings, resources, templates, trackers, scripts, everything that you could possibly imagine that would take you from the learning to the action, and then from the action to the implementation, because this is kind of the business journey of the neurodivergent entrepreneur. We get stuck in the information point sometimes, and then we have no clear pathway to the action, let alone the implementation. So, you know, that I've created the clearest pathway. It doesn't miss a beat, to be honest. So you'll learn everything that you need to know about how to create those consistent, repeatable sales on social media and on your email list, with human to human connection and one signature offer. So this is another thing. If you've been throwing multiple offers at a wall and you just feel so split between all of them, we're going to be pretty much cutting off all the excess fat, and I'm going to be teaching you how to make that stackable, repeatable income through one signature offer. This is a lost art. I do not know why people are ramming the, well, I do know why, but I'm not going to get into it. You know, you need 2 freebies, you need 3 $9 ebooks, you need to create 2 low ticket, 1 mid ticket, and 1 high ticket. You don't. Like, you really do not, especially not when you're at the stage in business where you are trying to build a reputation, you're trying to get known. You just don't need it. So we're going to be focusing on building out and positioning one signature offer that you can then market, sell effectively time and time again. And we'll be putting that in structures that will be made out specifically for you, and me and you are going to work together to actually build out those structures so that you're going to be able to know basically when you come in, when you're going, when you're launching, when you're not, if you even want to launch, because this is another thing that's not a prerequisite. You can do evergreen if you want. The substance is not in that part, it's in the skills. So that's the 8-module curriculum. And then within that as well, aside from that, you will also get Monday to Friday support in the group from me. So although it is a group program, you and me will be talking Monday to Friday whenever you need, through Telegram within that space. So group, but a lot of one-to-one time. And then you also get group calls every 2 weeks where we will go into a little bit deeper coaching. And you can kind of just bring anything that you want, maybe looking at in real time, or maybe you just want to talk face to face about it. So within our 3 months together, we will be going through, as I said, 8 main phases, modules. Module 1 is selling with safety. So this is where we're going to be going into the shadow work, the confidence, the inner work, the very real things that we kind of have to adapt to and move through as neurodivergent entrepreneurs, and feeling safe and confident and ethical with our sales, because it's so important that we feel good and we feel like our sales processes are rooted in our values rather than I feel like shit when I sell. We don't want that. And I think it's really important that we don't try and change our core values. So again, I don't believe in blanket strategies. So when I say that you get the most in-depth like support in this group to work out how these processes are going to work for you, like I would put a big fucking bet on it that you haven't ever had support like this ever in a coaching container. So we'll be going through that. We'll also be doing in the next modules, we'll be going through a niche retune. So going really, really deep into your niche. Again, if you think you're clear on your niche, I'll be honest, you probably aren't as clear as you think. I see this time again with new students. They're like, don't even worry about the niching part. And then when we go into the niching beyond like the basics and the workbook questions that you've probably done in the past, they're like, oh, holy shit, like I wasn't clear at all. So we'll be doing a niche retune. We'll be going over your messaging. We'll be going into research and packaging and positioning your offer so that it actually sells in your market, because you've put together an offer that your market and your industry are so hungry for, but you're going to be able to actually see it because everyone else in your industry is essentially doing the same thing, but you've actually done the research that you need and you've positioned it in a way that is going to be a no-brainer for your ideal client. Then we're going to be going into content and copy. Obviously, that is extremely important. This is mainly based around social media and email marketing. So I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know about copy and content that warms people up and sells with ethics and brand and potency. And then I'm going to be going on to how to actually find your people on social media and online without being a creepy stalker, basically, how to do it ethically, and how to do it in a way that feels good and aligned and not overall creepy. Then we're going to be going into ethical sales outreach and selling in the DMs. Now, this is a sticking point for a lot of people because no one wants to be that annoying fuck that basically just like DMs a bunch of people like randos. Hey, love. Hey, girl. Just wanted to let you know about my program. And we're not doing any of that shit. We're really, really not. That's not what ethical sales outreach is. And that is not what selling in the DMs looks like. So I'm not going to be telling you to cold DM 100 random people a day. I'm not going to be telling you to like just go in and talk to people to get them quickly on sales calls. Like I will be teaching you how to conduct really, really great sales calls, but we're going to be doing it all in a way that basically you just have one job, and that is to nurture relationships in a way that it sticks to your values, feels good, and just finds out whether someone is a fit or not, if they need help with something that they're struggling with. We're not in the business of convincing people or pushing people. So that's not what I'm going to teach you there. I'm going to teach you how to do it all ethically. And so it feels aligned for you. Then I'm going to be going into selling through your Instagram stories, because this was a very, very requested topic. Instagram stories are so incredibly effective. I can't even tell you. I can't even. I wouldn't even want to begin to say on this podcast episode, because I'd be here for hours. But look, I'm going to be teaching everything you need to know about that, as well, and micro content too. And then rounding it all off, you'll learn about selling with your neurospicy brain, and how to create routines and repeatability, not only in your sales processes, but with your own time management as well. So that is pretty much it. And as I say, we've got 12 slots available total. 4 people have already joined, which means that there are 8 slots left. Did I do that math right? Yeah, I did. Jesus, I actually had to question that. So 8 slots left. We start on August 5th. So if you want in, or if you just want to chat a little bit more about whether it's a fit for you, you just want to ask some questions, just message me and we can have a no obligation chat about whether it could be a fit for where you're at. So just DM me on Instagram, the word sales, SALES, at Polly Pocket, fucking hell, at Polly Pollock Official. That is my Instagram handle. And I hope to chat with you soon. And I can't wait to be your coach if it's a fit. Okie dokie. And with that, I will round it off here, and I will see you guys next week.